30 Odd Minutes is sponsored in part by Digital Dowsing. Who are you powered by?
For the next 30 minutes, we will explore the unexplained. From mysteries beyond our galaxy to ghostly phenomena in our own backyard. We will dive into our psychic abilities and explore everything from conspiracies to the just plain weird. Welcome to 30 Odd Minutes. If the truth is out there, we will find it. But only by sheer accident.
Hey! Welcome. Welcome to the mothership, 30 Odd Minutes. It's great to have you with us. Today we're stranded. You can see we've sat down right in front of West Virginia State Penitentiary. It's haunted, it's creepy, and we're stranded here. I'm a little bit nervous. And I'm not alone. Of course, with me in the control room, Matt, Andrew, how are you today?
Hey, howdy there, Jeff. What's up?
What's happening, Jeff?
How are you doing? You spent the weekend at Lizzie Borden's.
Yes, we did. We did.
That was a blast.
It was always a blast at Lizzie Borden's.
Anything weird?
One of the ladies there took a picture of what looked like a moving mist in Andrew Borden's bedroom. Be curious to see what becomes of that. It was what I could see off of her camera looked pretty interesting.
Interesting. Matt, you?
Yeah, I had that little dark figure, shadow, whatever the heck it is, darting about down in the basement all night.
Oh, Tim Weisberg's buddy.
Yeah, I went and threw him down the stairs, yeah.
All right, always a good time. Well, thank you for manning the controls tonight. And our lady is back. Laura, welcome back. It's good to have you here in the communications bay. What's new?
Thanks. I'm so glad to be back. My delicates, my hair, everything is washed and dried, and I'm ready for you. So glad to be back.
All right.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
And we do have an email today from our fan, Frank Judd from Mansfield, Ohio. Now, he says, "Dear Oddballs, how does the mothership avoid radar, NORAD, observation satellites, telescopes, and eyewitnesses when you pass by Earth each week?" Well, Frank, if you are a true fan of the show, and I hope you are, and if you watch us often enough, you'll know that we do have an invisibility cloak, and that pretty much takes care of all those things that you listed. So that's how we do it. And by the way, don't forget, you can always email us if you have questions for us at info@30oddminutes.com. You can also catch us on Twitter at 30oddminutes and facebook.com/30oddminutes. There you go.
Shameless social media plugs, thank you.
Yep.
And the other way we avoid detection is a lot of smoke, a lot of mirrors, and a string of dead bodies. Don't ask any more questions. Okay. Ooh. The truth. It's the quest we're all on, isn't it? Of course. Our own Dr. Dreck is also on a quest for the truth. This is what he found.
Greetings, oddballs. Dr. Dreck here. Everyone wants to know the truth. So if your destination is truth, it's not as hard to find as you think. And you know how I know? Because I just used Google Maps and, wrote in truth, and it gave me the directions. So I'm going to take you to meet truth with me using my GPS, my galactic positioning system. So let's go to it right now. Here we go. I'm really excited about this. Oh boy. Oh, get out of the way. Star Trek. We're getting closer. We're getting closer. And, hey, get this kid out of the way. We're arriving. We're here. We're here. It's the truth. Yeah, the truth is out there, and it's banana cream pie. I only had some coffee.
Thank you, Dr. Dreck.
He got
banana cream pie.
Sometimes feels like that, doesn't it? It feels like the quest for the truth is like a pie in the face. That's how it goes. All right. Ever wonder what it would be like to be stuck in a giant haunted building for a few days, forced to look for ghosts? So does tonight's guest. You know him best as the host of the Syfy Channel's hit show, Destination Truth. Well, this week he's back with a new show called Stranded. But this time he's behind the camera. The new show premieres Wednesday, February 27th at 10 p.m. on the Syfy Channel and follows a team of amateur ghost hunters as they get locked into creepy haunted buildings to see what evidence they can find. No production crew, no pros, just regular folks with cameras. Beaming to the mothership live from Los Angeles, California, please welcome Josh Gates.
Yeah.
Hey. Hello. Good to have you here, sir.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me aboard.
I know from prior conversations, you're not a big believer in aliens and space travel, but here we are.
Well, I guess I'm wrong. I stand to be corrected. You have a beautiful spaceship, and
thank you.
I apologize.
No, apology accepted. And it takes a big man to recognize that new data can come in, and you can adjust your worldview. And so, all right, let's Stranded. Now, you're a guy that investigated Chernobyl. Spooky, right? I mean, the whole hazmat suit and everything. How do you go from that to Stranded? What's the evolution? Where's the idea come from?
Well, we've done a lot of paranormal investigations on Destination Truth, and I've been, privileged enough to host Ghost Hunters Live for a number of years, and so we've wanted to do something else in the paranormal space for a long time, and obviously it's something at the Syfy Channel that is of great interest. And what we didn't want to do is go make another show with professional paranormal investigators. We've got great paranormal investigators on Syfy, and so we wanted to do something different. And so what we set out to do is find a way for folks that are interested by the paranormal, whether they're believers or skeptics, and let them experience what it's like to be an investigator. And not only that, but instead of just going to a haunted location to investigate, move in. And so that's where the genesis of the idea came from. And Stranded will feature groups of 3 people spending 5 days totally alone in some of the country's most notorious haunted locations.
Awesome. Let's take a quick look. Syfy sent us a clip. Check it out.
On Syfy's original Wednesday, an all-new Stranded.
We have been driving in the middle of nowhere to get to this location that we're going to be living in for 5 days.
There's been a lot of paranormal activity spotted in this house.
Every step you take, you feel like there's somebody behind you.
That door just closed.
I'm not going back in there.
What was that?
If anyone finds these videotapes, make sure they find the authorities.
Stranded, all new Wednesdays at 10.
Holy Blair Witch Batman. Mm-hmm. So 5 days, these folks are, do you feed them? What's happening here?
They have to eat rats and fend for themselves. No, we let them bring food into the locations. And, our creative partner on this is Jason Blum, who's the creator of Paranormal Activity and Sinister, Insidious, and Dark Skies is out right now. And so there is that kind of paranormal activity vibe to the show. We have mounted surveillance cameras that are unmanned that track these folks all through these properties, and they have their own handheld cameras as well. And yeah, it isn't just investigating. They have to figure out what they're going to eat and where they're going to sleep. And in some of the locations, that's a real challenge in and of itself. A few of the spots are old historic houses, and there are bedrooms and places to sleep. But right behind you there at West Virginia Penitentiary, you've got people having to figure out where they're going to lay their heads at night. Is it going to be in a jail cell? Are they going to split up? And trying to get through 5 days of that.
Right. Now this is interesting because I think a lot of people, there's so many paranormal shows, there's so many fans of these shows, we get the chance to meet them at some of the events, and they love it. They love the genre, they love the subject. And so what's different, like you said, these aren't pros. So we've got pros, we've got Ghost Adventures, we've got Ghost Hunters, we've got Destination Truth, and plenty of others. So how do you find these people that are willing to come together and camp out for 5 days?
Well, as you said, there are so many people interested in the paranormal, and that's the other thing that really spurred this is I've had the opportunity to meet so many great fans at different events and different speaking engagements throughout the year, and this really, to me, is a show that's about fans of the paranormal and for fans of the paranormal. The first 6 episodes in the run, we did a variety of different casting for it. We did everything from Craigslist ads to postings to a casting director putting up notices in different cities. And we got a ton of applicants for the first 6 episodes. And we were really looking for groups of people that would complement each other. So we don't want a group of 3 skeptics or a group of 3 believers. We want kind of a range of viewpoints. So within each group, we've got someone who usually is a real true believer, and someone who's a real hardened skeptic, and maybe someone who's kind of a paranormal agnostic who kind of doesn't know what they believe. That way we get a good debate going between the 3 people, and we get to watch them kind of duke it out inside and figure out whether or not what's happening to them is paranormal or whether it's just in their minds.
Now I've been on plenty of ghost hunts, like Dave Schrader's events, the Darkness Radio events, and stuff like that, where people come out for the first time. They're fans of the shows, and they want to do what they see on TV. And there's always a few people who panic. There's people who just go out running. I can't do this. And there's people that get really mad. Nothing's happening, And so what a risk, You've got 5 days. Did you have anyone who just couldn't handle it? Not to give it away.
That was the biggest fear, and really before we went to film the show, the big discussion with the network was, will this work? If you just turn over the reins to 3 people and not only ask them to be on the show, but ask them to film the show, will it work? Will they quit? Will they just sit on the couch and stare at the wall and eat cereal all week? I mean, what will they do? We're lucky that we had nobody storm off the properties. We had one or two people who got, I think, very close to leaving. But I'm really proud of the participants. They really stuck it out. And to your first point, yeah, that's the big difference between professional paranormal investigators and first-time paranormal investigators is the fear and the stress and the tension of it. And so you're going to see things on Stranded that you might not used to be seeing on these shows. People are crying and they're screaming and they're cowering. They're really freaked out by these locations. So a very different kind of, experiential investigation.
Right on. Okay, Josh, we do have a question for you from our chat room. Laura, please.
Actually, Josh, I have 2 questions. One is from me and one is from Barb's in the chat room. So I'll go with Barb's question first and then shoot mine. Barb is asking, what do you do with the evidence that your participants collect? What happens after they come back and away from the show? My question is, as an agnostic, possibly a skeptic, when it comes to ghosts, I wonder, do these people that are agnostics or skeptics walk away from the show really being believers?
Yeah, so those are both great questions. In terms of the evidence, there's a little bit less of an emphasis on Stranded with all of the paranormal technology. It's there and it's used in the shows, but it's not really front and center as much. And that's because, when people claim to see ghosts or hear ghosts, people who live in these houses, they don't typically have the benefit of those tools. They just say that they saw something or they heard something. So we wanted to put our participants in their shoes and say, move in, make yourselves comfortable, and tell us if you experience what these people are claiming to experience. They do have digital audio recorders and some EMF detectors, and they do record things and actually analyze them themselves and play things back while they're in the properties. And they actually caught some really amazing evidence. I have to say, one of my biggest fears was that we wouldn't get great evidence out of this show. I think it's some of the best paranormal evidence I've ever seen, like really scary stuff. In terms of whether or not everybody who comes in an agnostic or a skeptic leaves that way, it depends on the show. We have some episodes where the skeptic comes in a skeptic and they remain a skeptic, even in the face of really compelling evidence. And we have some shows where the skeptic is the most terrified person there and becomes the first one to say, "This place is haunted."
I think I would be.
That's cool. Laura's our resident. We're going to make a believer out of one of these days. All right, let's talk about the first location in your first episode, Oceanic Hotel. We've got a picture. This is on Star Island in New Hampshire, and it's this. There it is, an old postcard. Beautiful old building, lots of old history. What's the setup here? What's your crew going to walk into on the first episode?
Yeah, so this is the premiere episode, which is tomorrow night, Wednesday night.
Yep.
At 10 o'clock, and the 3 participants for this show, they really didn't know where they were going. They knew they had to come to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and they were supposed to meet a guy named Jack down on the dock, and there's a boat down there and a guy, and they go on board with their stuff. They really don't know where they're going, and they get taken out to this really lonely island, part of the Isle of Shoals, and they get dumped off on this island and told that they're going to be staying in this hotel, which is shuttered up for the winter. And it really is, in some ways, maybe the most emblematic show of the whole group, in that they are physically the most stranded. There's a cold ocean between them and the mainland, so they've got nothing to do but stay in this hotel. It's pretty dreary and wet and cold out there this time of year, and so they are in the hotel 4 or 5 days, figuring out, in hundreds of rooms where they're going to sleep. Are they going to split up, and how are they going to, attack this pretty massive property and investigate it?
Right, and I mean, and that's the nature of it too. And you've got The Shining, of course, comes to mind.
Sure.
Stranded in the hotel. So I mean, but that's the nature of television, right? We're playing off things we know. These classic horror movies and paranormal activity and ghost hunting shows. And I think sometimes it's a mood. Fear is a really raw emotion, and sometimes putting yourself in the right setting with the right circumstances, you're afraid. And when you're afraid, your senses are heightened. And when your senses are heightened, what do you experience?
That's right. And I have to say that's one of the things that really excited me about Stranded is that it does hearken to these classic horror films and things like The Shining, and we are, using the visual style of things like Paranormal Activity to our advantage. But what's really unique about it is that we haven't really seen this before. There have been things like Fear, where people were sort of challenged just to kind of go into a place and see, can you get down that hallway and come back? And we have a lot of really professional paranormal investigating going on. But to see people have to kind of make a home for themselves in a place and grapple with living there day after day, and to not be professionals about it and to be scared and to let that fear through, there's something really scary about watching that. And I have to say also voyeuristically, there's something kind of exciting about it as well. You get to kind of spy on these people and see how they're going to live their lives while they're inside these haunted houses.
Absolutely. All right, the show's called Stranded, Wednesday nights at 10 o'clock on the Syfy Channel. Josh will be back right after the news break. See you in just a minute. Whoa, and we're trying. There it is.
A very interesting sighting of Bigfoot has just been reported in eastern Texas. David Arsenault says the encounter took place in December of 2012 while he was making his monthly visit to the Oak Bluff Cemetery in Port Neches. Arsenault said he was attending to the graves of family and friends when he heard a blood-curdling scream. An unidentified woman who was in the cemetery at the time also heard the scream and came to see if he was all right. When it became clear that the sound had come from the direction of nearby Block Bayou, they both went to investigate the area. Arsenault claimed they saw two large Bigfoot-like creatures throwing rocks into the water on the opposite side of the river. The huge beasts were in a field about 100 yards away, but Arsenault said that he could see their faces as clear as day. He saw long hair hanging from below their mouths and on their arms. Both witnesses could see one Bigfoot was standing in the tree line holding onto a tree, while the second Bigfoot was squatting down in the field grass. When the second Bigfoot stood up, Arsenault said it looked to be about 8 feet tall. Thinking quickly, he tried to take a picture of the great beast using his cell phone. Unfortunately, the distance was far too great for the small camera's lens, and the figures in the picture appear too grainy for any real detail to be seen. The two bipedal animals then turned away and ran into the cover of the forest. At this point, the female witness became very scared and ran back to her car and immediately left the area. Arsenault said he did the same thing after worrying about the huge creatures coming back and crossing over to his side of the water. When Mr. Arsenault said that he decided to come forward with this story after a game warden had told him there had been many reports of Bigfoot along the Neches River. It's only a matter of time, big guy. We'll get you. I'm Andrew Lake, and oddly enough, that's the news.
Thank you, Andrew. Bigfoot in the news again. Bigfoot, oh my gosh. These stories come up again and again. There's so many compelling stories, but the evidence, the video, the photographs, they're so grainy. When are we going to have people with the HD cameras? Mm-hmm. Andrew, Matt, what do you guys think when you see this story? Do you think there's something to it?
Yeah, to me, it does feel real. I mean, I can understand the guy being hesitant to come forward to tell this story, but there have been many of these reports along the river. I just think the guy's story smacks of real, and it's not his fault that the phone and his camera. I know my camera, phone rather doesn't have that good of a camera. So, I mean, unless you've got a real good professional camera, how are you going to get a good shot at 100 yards?
How many people are actually able to catch a picture of a car accident as it's happening with their camera? I mean, the fact that he actually got off a shot, I take my hat off to him.
Yeah.
But that's not a car accident. These creatures were standing there.
No, but
for
my
a while.
point is how common are car accidents, and how often do people really catch them on a cell phone? The fact that a Sasquatch sighting is, rare as it is, and the fact that the person had the presence of mind to pull the trigger on the camera.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Laura, go ahead.
Skeptic.
Say your piece.
I just think, what you said earlier, I just feel like if they really are out there, why do we always get this really kind of dicey evidence that is just not conclusive, that it can be very much disputed? Like, why do we not see full picture, the whole thing? I just don't get it. To me, I'm still skeptic on that one. I see the figures there. I don't really know what they are. They could have been Photoshopped for all I know. It's just
Well, how do you
hard.
explain the physical evidence then? Okay? Physical tracks, as well as biological material that does show genetic differences from known primates. You know, I work as a scientist. I deal with this stuff day by day. That stuff gets my attention.
Yeah.
If only we had someone here who could comment on Bigfoot and Yeti and the Wait a minute, I have an idea.
Yeah, what about the Yeti Track?
Josh, tell us about the Yeti Track, Destination Truth.
You know, I've looked for Bigfoot and variations on Bigfoot a lot on Destination Truth, and we found some really cool evidence. We found a great track up in the Himalayas, which was really pristine. Actually, a sequence of tracks, one really good one. That's now on display down at Animal Kingdom at Disney World in Florida at their Yeti-themed ride, which is kind of where all was said and done. But you know, I'm kind of two minds about these stories. I don't think we should dismiss out of hand the possibility that there are still discoveries to be made. I think that the discovery of something as big as, you know, an unknown primate that's 8 feet tall would be really incredible. But, you know, look, there are still mammals being discovered. There was a new mammal discovered in Vietnam, a deer-like animal in a fairly, you know, small country that was discovered just a few years ago. So I think it's possible. For me, I tend to get a little more skeptical here in the States. I know that's sort of heresy for Sasquatch enthusiasts, but I do think that, you know, look, you're not talking about one of anything. You're talking about a population of animals. And at a certain point, that's going to be hard to keep off the radar. And you would expect to find skeletal remains. You would expect to find all those other things. But, you know, never say never. I think it's completely possible that there are still big discoveries to be made out there. And the Yeti or Bigfoot may be out there. We don't know.
Right. And I think some of the stuff that it comes down to as well, what we're talking about with anything paranormal, whether it's Bigfoot or ghosts or UFOs or sea monsters or otherwise, we're talking about a human experience. There's always a human experiencer, someone who sees something, someone who that data doesn't fit into how they understand the world is supposed to work, and they apply a label to it. I've been in creepy places. I've been in Moundsville Penitentiary where you're standing there and you see something moving, a shadow down there, and you know no one else is in the building with you. I have nothing in my lexicon other than ghost to use for what that experience is. Now, could it have been my mind playing tricks on me? I guess so. You know, I accept that as a possibility. But at the same time, we have these experiences. For you, you know, and for me personally, an EMF meter going off doesn't validate anything other than there's an electromagnetic field nearby. But seeing something, to me, is validation for me. What's proof enough for you?
You know, I'm like an open-minded skeptic, but I am a skeptic at heart. You know, proof is a tough word to throw around. You know, proof implies science, and for something to be scientific, it has to be all sorts of boring things. It has to be done in a controlled environment. It has to be based on hypothesis, and it has to be repeatable.
Right.
And that's tough, and we don't have that. We don't have, you know, what I always say is, you know, we don't have the headless horseman. You know, we don't have some ghost that can be relied upon to show up every night at the same spot so that we can study and observe. So, I think we're a long way from being able to say that we can prove the paranormal exists. But I also think that, you know, in this country, I think more than 80% of Americans believe that, believe there is an afterlife of some kind. You know, that's more people than believe in evolution. So I think it's important to talk about. I'm glad that we're studying it and that we're debating it. But proof is a tough one for me. And look, I've seen lots of scary things, and I've experienced things that I've seen things. But proof's a big word.
I guess I look at proof as an individual thing, like truth. Truth is a relative term, right? I mean, to some people, a certain religious text is truth. To someone else, it's heresy. And so for me, my senses, figuring I'm of sound mind and body, is truth to me. Let's talk about another haunt. Let's talk about Carrie Mansion in Newport, Rhode Island. We've got a photo of it. Now, Carrie Mansion, this is part of the Salve Regina University, right? That's the same...
Yeah, it is. They owned it and used it actually as a dorm for a while. And the stories that I've heard is that when it was used as a boys' dorm, it got pretty trashed out. Can you imagine going to college and showing up and that's your dorm?
I do. I can imagine that because a good friend of mine that I graduated high school with was dormed in Carrie Mansion all these years ago. And when I started getting into ghosts many years ago, he said, look, I got to tell you what happened in my dorm. He was in Carrie Mansion, and he said one of his first nights there, he's laying in bed, brand new student, the whole thing, and this glowing like mass is moving around the ceiling of his dorm room inside Carrie Mansion. And he said, well, that was really weird. And then other stuff started happening. Like he was sure, he's very meticulous. He set his alarm. And he wakes up one morning and the alarm's been turned off. And he's just not the kind of guy to forget. And so
how high was he, though?
See,
no
that's
comment.
my point.
Oh, stop it. Wait a minute. wait. There's a finish to the story. So he has a conversation with the ghost. He says, all right, look, I got to live here. I recognize you were here first, but you can't mess with my alarm. I got to get to class and stuff like that. But he kind of felt like the whole time he was there, he coexisted with the ghosts that were in the mansion. And I can imagine it got trashed because maybe they were high. No offense. I'm not naming them. We're cool. We're totally
We're not blaming anybody. No judgments here.
So what's the findings? This team. So your team gets into this historic Newport mansion. What's turning up?
Yeah. So this is the second episode of the series that'll air a week from tomorrow night. And look, another great location, very famous, historic mansion in Newport. The exterior was used for the help me out, Shadows,
right.
Dark Shadows TV show. And it's a big rambling mansion that's well preserved, but also kind of in a state of decay in places. And we let loose these three people in there that were three young friends from Brooklyn. And, they had a really terrifying 5 days there. The girl in the group is probably one of the most freaked out people on the show. I mean, she really got scared in this place. And they had some wild experiences. And, one of the other crazy things as a viewer of this show is that you get to see things that they don't get to see. Sometimes they will be in one room and you get to kind of look into another room. And so sometimes there's evidence that's collected that, they don't even know about. So some very cool, weird evidence gets collected at Carey Mansion. It's a really freaky spot.
That real quick question, just from a technical TV point of view, because I know from working on Ghost Adventures and things like that, sometimes you go through the whole night and you feel like nothing happened, and then you review your evidence and say, wow, weird things did happen. How do you handle that? I mean, is it stuff that comes out weeks later where they didn't even know was happening?
Yeah, we would go back through, all the cameras throughout the properties have pretty good digital mics on them. So we would go through and re-listen to everything. We would go back and watch every frame to see if, we caught anything visually. And there are a number of times in different episodes where we see and hear things in these properties that in some cases our participants hear and in some cases they don't. But as I said earlier, some really compelling audio evidence.
Right, and that's cool stuff. And some of these places, like West Virginia Penitentiary, we got a quick photo. These places are creepy. You've got hundreds of people that have died, in this location. This amazing old prison. What was it? Something like 94 executions. Many by hanging, murders, mayhem, all that stuff. And when you get closed in there, when the doors slam shut and you're alone, I don't care how brave you are. I don't care how many horror movies you watch. It's freaking scary.
I went there about a week before they filmed in there to scout it, to walk through, and one of the guy that was showing me around said, "Yeah, go upstairs, walk around the old kind of mental ward and hospital area, just kind of go check it out. I'll be down here." And I was up there alone for 5 minutes maybe, and I was like, "I got to get out of here."
Yeah.
So the idea of being there after dark and having to sleep in there, forget it.
Sounds so freaky. I think I need psychiatric help.
Warning. The mothership's refrigeration units are almost out of beer. The beer store closes in 1 minute.
My goodness, that is our warning. We have to wrap this up. I know, we have to get crazy. Okay, the show is called Stranded. It premieres Wednesday, February 27th at 10 p.m. on the Syfy Channel. Josh Gates is the man behind it. You know him from Destination Truth. We appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you for sharing. We're looking forward to the new show.
Happy to be here. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I think it's going to be a great paranormal series, and looking forward to hearing how everybody enjoys it.
Sounds great. Josh, thank you so much for joining us. From Laura, Matt, Andrew, and Hop Along Eric in the back. From us to you, stay odd. Yeah. Woo-hoo.